Okay, page 39. Masonic Records of Enoch. Masonic historians have preserved traditions concerning Enoch, recording that the prophet before the deluge had a dream that inspired the building of a ninefold temple. This monument was built with the aid of his father Jared and son Methuselah, both Sethites, but no one in those days understood the strange purpose to this temple except Enoch 64. This is consistent with what we have thus far seen, and the Jasher records insist that Jared was alive for centuries after his son Enoch vanished. Masonry is divided into two distinct bodies of teachings or rituals: the ancient rites and the modern rites. The 13th degree is among the ancient rites, and according to the book of the Ancient and Accepted Rite of Scottish Freemasonry, the 13th degree is interestingly called the Royal Arch of Enoch, or Master of the Ninth Arch. Under this degree, the initiate is taught that Enoch built monuments before the flood. One structure erected to hide a cube of agate with a golden triangle that in itself contained the secret name of God. After building this temple, Enoch then built around and over it another structure of great stones. He is also taught to have erected two pillars before the great flood, one of granite and the other of brass. The granite pillar has inscribed upon it the description of the subterranean vaults laid by Enoch, but it was washed away in the flood. The brass pillar contained rudiments of the arts and sciences, and was later found after the flood of Noah, by Noah, 65. One of the earliest Masonic manuscripts concerning these two pillars is called the Ingo Jones document from 1607 AD. This text was considered one of the ancient charges of Freemasonry that was destroyed in 1720. The only surviving copy was found in the Masonic Book of Constitutions. This book details that before the flood, the sciences of geometry, masonry, music, metallurgy, and weaving were preserved because of the coming of a great catastrophe. These children knew well that God would take vengeance for their sin either by fire or by water, wherefore they wrote their sciences that they found on two pillars that they might be found after Noah's flood. One of the pillars was marble, for that will not burn with any fire, and the other was laternus, for that will not drown with any water. On account next is to tell you truly how and in what manner these stones were found whereon these sciences were written. 66. This document reveals that these antediluvian pillars erected by Enoch were found and excavated after the disaster during the reign of a king called Ninus, who, as we learn from the erudite Alexander Hislop, in his penetrating work entitled The Two Babylons, was merely an Assyrian title for the person remembered as the Babylonian king Nimrod. So we have it related that it was during the infamous Nimrod's rule that the Great Pyramid was rediscovered. The discovery of the location of Giza was made in the year 2076 Annus Mundi. As this is not a work on chronology, this author has endeavored to restrain himself from dating every single historical event mentioned in this book in the interest of brevity. Thank you, Jason. For those seeking a chronology of events involving the pre-flood and post-flood histories, see When the Sun Darkens, Anunnaki Homeworld, and Descent of the Seven Kings. All three of these books are works on chronology. But for our purposes here in exploring the Masonic history, the Annus Mundi chronology was developed in Alexandria in response to the plethora of writings and chronologies studied there that all seem to refer to a beginning date, which was represented as year 1 of the Hebrew chronology. Annus Mundi literally means year of the world, but this was only conceptual. The ancients believed the calendar began with creation, thus the description Annus Mundi, whereas the Hebrew narratives began with the curse. The calendar began with the banishment of mankind from Eden. As found in this author's other works, the date of the flood is astronomically fixed at 2239 BC and independently verified by other dating systems and chronological studies having no relation to the authors other than the fact that the arrived at date for the flood was 2239 BC. In the Hebrew narrative, the Great Flood occurred in the year 1656. Again, many chronological works and scholarly studies independently relate this fact. So, if 2239 BC of our calendar was the year 1656 Annus Mundi, Hebrew reckoning, then 2076 AM was 420 years after the flood, or 1819 BC. As can be found in the books mentioned above, both Nimrod and Abraham were alive in 1819 BC. At the exact date Nimrod ruled under the throne name Amraphel, the dynastic name Hammurabi, and the Sumerian title Amar Udaak, which was conveyed in Babylonia as Marduk, Merodach. And during this time, Abraham, according to the Genesis record, was in Egypt. Such an account of the post-flood discovery of writings was antedated. The deluge is consistent with another historical account as found in the pages of the Book of Jubilees. And Canaan grew, and his father taught him writing, and he went to seek for himself a place where he might seize for himself a city. And he found a writing which the forefathers had carved into a rock, and he read what was in it, and he found that there was written within it the science of the watchers, by which they had seen the astrology of the sun and moon and the stars and all the signs of heaven. And he wrote this down and did not say anything concerning it, for he feared to speak to Noah concerning it, lest he be angry with him on this account. 67. Prior to the Babel catastrophe, the Sumerian culture thrived, having been descendants of the original survivors of the flood. Before the language rifts occurred, Sumerian was the universal language, and the oldest Near Eastern texts found to date are in Sumerian ideograms. The learning Canaan received was in Sumerian, and and any old writings that survived the floodwaters were also Sumerian. Such a conclusion was made by the Masonic historians as well. The Wood manuscript dates from 1610 and is believed to be more reliable than the Indigo Jones manuscript. This text begins by relating to all the sciences akin to masonry and declares that geometry is the greatest of all sciences. It also mentions two pillars after Noah's flood that still existed. One of these pillars was found to still have writings on it of all the secrets and sciences of the old world that it was destroyed in Sumerian, from which the Sumerians developed a moral code that they passed on to the Egyptians through a Sumerian man named Abraham who traveled to Egypt. 68. The legend of Enoch's pillar is derived from these traditions, a myth that asserts that there is a pillar of knowledge built by the prophet that contains all the secrets of the world. While this is partially true, referring to the Great Pyramid, some groups in the past have taken the pillar angle to literally that they claim to have found it in the object of some old dug-up relic. Such was the case with the Knights Templar, who claimed that long ago they had discovered a small artifact in the form of a pillar broken into 3 parts, which they claimed was Enoch's pillar. 69. There are fragmented memories of Enoch and the pyramids from all over the world. Many of the secret societies obtained writings that drew upon these sources. Philo Alexandrius took such information from the older Phoenician annals, which were rich in Semitic histories that state that the first 2 inventors of the human race were brothers named Upsaranius and Ossus, who consecrated 2 pillars long ago, one to fire and the other to wind. 70. Diodorus, relying on older books, claimed that the Great Pyramid was constructed by one called Chemist. He claimed that the monument had been there for 34 centuries. 71. Even the Arab historians had borrowed much of their information from the old Sabaeans, a people of high antiquity and civilization spanning back to the days of Job in the mid-2nd millennium BC. These people left records claiming that the Great Pyramid was a tomb housing the bodies of the patriarchs Seth and Idris, Enoch of the Quran 72. Enoch is a constant character, and his life the theme of many arcane writings and annals. His name has been found upon stone tablet texts in cuneiform from the Near East, discovered upon the archaic king's list of Summer, and heard from the tongues of even primitive peoples who still pass on his histories, though they long lost the meaning of what they relate. But there is much more to this story. The Gizian relics were not made merely as repositories of ancient information to be gleaned by the post-apocalyptic survivors of a flood, but this monumental area serves another purpose, one you will never forget.